Welcome to the Tea Grannies. I'm Elise.
And I'm Maria. Welcome to Season 5. We're kicking off with our first pages critique, so pour yourself a cup of tea and let's get started. On today's episode, we have two special guests to critique first pages with us. We have Meghan Davis and Daphne de Grand Prix, who I can never say her last name, so that's what you get. And correct me if it's wrong. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Daphne, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Hi, I'm Daphne. I am a bookstagrammer, bookseller, and all-around book person.
All right.
So I'm Meghan Davis. I am active on Bookstagram, as Minnie likes books, if you want to come check me out over there. And back in May, I self-published my first little book, You I Lie With. It's an emotionally devastating novella.
It is,
Nice.
Yes, and it was fantastic.
Thank you. I recommend getting some tissues before you read.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here today.
Woo! We're so excited to have some extra feedback on our first pages, and we have some really awesome submissions. So before we jump into first pages, we're going to talk about what we want to see in a first page. For me, I just want to be hooked. Like, I can excuse something that doesn't make sense because I assume I'm going to learn about it later, so I don't really worry about it. I'm like really relaxed about the first page, apparently. But in general, I just need to be hooked by character or plot, or I won't flip the page. And I definitely want to see something at the end of the first page that makes me want to go to the next page. And that's my super specific, super helpful description of what I like in a first page.
I love it.
I know, it's me.
I feel like our answers might be similar in a way, and most people's would be like, yes, you want to be hooked. And that means different things for different people. I think I generally want to learn something interesting that makes me curious enough to keep going. And this can be about like the character or the setting or the world or the time period or the plot. And ideally it's a mix of those things. But I think most often it's character, because that's what you spend the most time with throughout the rest of the book and throughout the story. So maybe it's an interesting point about the world that the character lives in, and that makes me want to know how they handle it, or whether they'll make it out of a difficult situation unscathed, or a complicated conversation with somebody. Yeah, so to our lovely and wonderful authors who have submitted first pages, we're very grateful, and I just wanted to make sure we said leave leeway for personal preference here.
Yes.
Just because
definitely.
you don't have one of the things we mention doesn't mean it's not good. Subjective opinion is a thing, especially
So
in the arts. Can't get away from it. But yeah, I recommend leaving a good amount of space for that whenever we're giving feedback on things. So yeah.
All right. Now, what do you two look for in a first page when you pick up a book? Just to read for fun, not for workshopping or anything like that.
What I'm looking for when I am reading the first page is I'm really looking at the prose quality. Like, how is this book going to be to read? Is it something that's going to be easy to read? Is the prose really kind of fast moving? Like, because sometimes I want that. Sometimes I don't want to be expending a lot of mental energy, like on the book. Sometimes that's why I'm picking it up. Or, you can usually tell from the first page if it's going to be something that you have to sit with a little bit more and give time, And so I feel like you can tell a lot about kind of what the vibe and the pace is going to be of the story based on that first page, and how much they kind of take their time with things, what the word choice is like, those kinds of things. So I'm really just looking for, like, what's the experience about to be like? And do I want to sign up for that?
Ooh, I like that. Because that's how I get into my mood reading problems, is like, I'll pick up and read the first page, and like you said, sometimes it requires like more brain power, and I'm just like, oh, I don't have it in me to read this right now. I need to read like something way more simple, and I'll pick up like, alien romance or whatever.
Exactly. Sometimes you're like, I just need some aliens right now.
Yes, it's so true. Yes. Exactly. What about you, Daph?
I mean, I think you all say it pretty well. It's a little bit of, the writing style. I find the first page is often going to be where I'll notice things, especially if it's written in first person, like how many times they're saying I, like, does it feel a bit like a list? And I find, especially the first page, I'll really clock that. So I tend to actually prefer third person books lately, just because it kind of gets completely away from that. But also, yeah, it's just a little bit of, does it have a punchy first line? Like, do I want to like, immediately keep going? And just kind of what am I getting myself set up for?
Mhm.
And kind of, yeah, you kind of want to be dropped in the middle of the action sometimes, or in the middle of something that's going to intrigue you right away. But also, it could just be, yeah, like a beautiful setting that we're just dropped in a world. And I want to
Mhm.
know what kind of world I'm in.
Yeah, that can sometimes work for me too. Like if it's a lot of setting on the first page, as long as I get something interesting by the end of the first page. But that doesn't happen as frequently as it does. Like it's usually a character that makes me want to keep reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like someone sent me a first page, I think Megan saw it too, in one of our chats, and it was so not, I was, how did this get past any editor ever? Like how is this in a published book? And so there's stuff like that. So if I read a first page like that, like I'm out. Like if I'm in the bookstore and I pick that up and I read that, I'd be like, well, I can tell that they didn't put any amount of care or thought into the first page, so I can expect the rest of the book won't be good either.
Yeah.
And that's my harsh
Yep.
judgment. I don't think it's too harsh. Hey, we gotta read what we love. Life is too short to read bad books.
Absolutely.
So that's the way she goes. So now we'll jump into our submissions.
Now we will.
And we'll start with our very first one, which looks like a fantasy one.
The sun kisses the horizon, painting the Transami Sea gold, a tranquil image, perhaps, if I stood on its ebony shores, not here, against a stenciled windows, while the celebration stirs beneath my feet, the arrhythmic cadence of excitement and intrigue, rising and lulling as waves on a beach. Somewhere, drinks are being poured, glasses lifted in toast, then tipped back in an agreed-upon oath. Vows crossing crowded ballrooms as lovers commit to each other their eternal selves, or something of a similar flavor. A lavish image, if I was there. I finger the box in my hands, its silk ribbon, its elegant J. My darling Layla, it reads, back when he used to say those words to me. It's been 2 years, but I have yet to let the ribbon slip through my fingers. On an impulse, I do it now, and pull the lid free, the opaque paper within rustling in the quiet corridor. The ivory fabric stalls me, the pure white, stained with crimson lettering, my forename resting alongside his patronym, the two parts of us threaded together into a handkerchief. I sink to the floor as the music swells around me. I think to move, to head to the shore or back to my chambers, somewhere, anywhere that isn't here. But then a soft voice surrounds me, and the familiar cadence brings back a lifetime of memory. I thought you'd be at the celebration. Jacob appears before the servants stare, wearing a melancholic smile beneath melancholic eyes. He, too, has chosen to remain free of the ceremonial garments, wearing a plain tunic over his usual cords. Yet even so, he is the picture of prestige. And let you be the only one who skips it, I ask. What sort of friend would I be? Perhaps a better one than I deserve. You deserve everything.
So my overall notes would be, this is a lovely first page to kick things off. I'm getting total epic fantasy vibes from this story, which everybody knows I love, obviously. There's a few beats here and there I think would benefit from some edits for flow and detail, but I think it's polished, I think it's tightly written, and it's been edited already, I can tell. And from a critical perspective, I just like the first paragraph to be smoothed out a little bit. It's a bit bumpy when I came in, and I had to reread it a couple times to like figure out what was going on. And it's beautiful and everything, but it has me picturing our main character Layla standing on the beach instead of in the building looking at the beach. And it may be a small thing for some people, but that really kind of threw me off getting anchored in the scene, and that's tough. And yeah, and in general, I've been struggling with some high fantasy lately, with like not being able to get into the character's head and their emotions early enough in the story. And there's a lot in this piece that hints to Layla's character and the plot and all the stuff that's coming, but I need a beat or two at the maybe near the beginning and again near the end of the first page where I feel like I get in her head a little bit more, and then that way, like probably around where she opens the box would be a good place to get into her like emotional state or what she's there for, what her life is like there. I just need a little bit of something more from that character so that I can really feel like I'm reading this page from their perspective and I'm not just reading it from like an observer's perspective. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I felt that there was a lot of maybe like subtext emotion in this piece, and then a lot of imagery, like really ethereal, beautiful imagery, like Maria said. The writing is just especially beautiful and fantastical. So I'm definitely getting those fantasy, historical fiction vibes from it. And the narrator comes across as this elegant, torn, maybe heartbroken kind of person. So I'm especially intrigued about them and their relationship with Jacob after their interaction at the end. I think similar to what Maria's already said, I struggled to connect with the narrator at this stage. It seems, this is what I meant by subtle emotion coming through. It seems like they're processing something and a lot of emotions, but I don't know what those emotions even are. They don't seem to show up on the page in a way that feels concrete. So that paired with like you said about the painting, are they outside or are they inside, left me feeling particularly unmoored. I wasn't sure what the present moment, where we were, what we were supposed to be feeling. There wasn't anything concrete for me to latch on to until the box. That was a very like an object lesson. It's just very tangible. So that does address that physical descriptive standpoint, but I was still waiting for it from the character emotional point of view. Overall, I'd still love to read more. I think it's important to say that.
Yeah, I would keep reading.
Yeah,
yes, 100%
right?
keep reading. Yeah.
But I think I definitely need to learn something concrete about the narrator on the next page at the latest, in order to remain engaged.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah. So overall, I definitely agree about feeling, confused about where exactly this character is. Like I, highlighted some of the, went in and highlighted some of the phrases that specifically I think are confusing this. Like she's looking at the ocean, right, and then it says that the celebration stirs beneath feet. So it was kind of like, okay, is it are you like overlooking a balcony, right? Like, and so it's like beneath her. So that kinds of phrases were what was confusing the location for me. And then, so I think that writing is really beautiful. I would maybe question that, like, a unique word choice is not always the most effective way to express like what you're trying to say, and so to me sometimes the word choice like obfuscated what you were trying to say rather than like making it clear. And then, like as both mentioned, that the box was, the part that was the most engaging, and so like in my opinion, I moved that to the beginning. Like that feels like that's your intro, is like, let's drop in with this box. That's the most intriguing part, and we can kind of set the stage, as we get into it. But yeah, because I agree with you both. The first paragraph was I think Maria said it, that the first paragraph was just a little, I don't know, needed a little bit of polish.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, there's like a lot like foundation that good. It's just more like tactical kind of adjustments, I think.
Yeah, I think if you started, or if the writer started with the box, I think you're right. That would like draw me in and then set the scene kind of following that, and then have I've already forgot his name because I'm the worst.
Jacob
Come up and then still end the chapter. Like, all the same things are still going to happen, but it will be, I think, a lot more engaging. Yeah. What do you think, Daphne?
I pretty much agreed with all of you on this. I loved the descriptive imagery. I was immediately intrigued by this kind of historical fantasy-ish world, and I was happy to kind of just keep waiting to find out what else is going on in this world. And like, I'm happy to wait for more world building to come in further pages. I was also struggling with where Layla is. There we go. Because we have these descriptions of these places where she isn't or where she's watching, but we don't have an actual description of where she is. Like, we're kind of assuming she's on a balcony. We know she's above some people who are having a celebration. We know she can see through a window, I guess to the side of her or behind her, but we don't actually know concretely kind of where she is. And then we also, I guess, find out there's a servant stairwell that Jacob is standing in front of. But yeah, it was kind of one of those situations where I feel like I know more about what isn't being interacted with than what actually is.
Oh, that's a good description of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So, I kind of just wanted to know a little bit more about her and where she is. So yeah, having the box kind of at the beginning would probably help set that. But yeah, that was my main.
I agree.
I would keep reading.
I love it. I would definitely keep reading too. I love a good fantasy book. We're all a sucker for it. Actually, what am I saying? The four of us here?
Always.
Yes.
Oh, Maggie agrees. She snorted in agreement. Thank you, Maggie. She's like, I like it when you pick up a fantasy book and you don't get out of your chair for 4 hours and I can sit on you. That's what Maggie likes about fantasy books.
In a town that values perfectly manicured lawns, picket fences, and polite nods, I've learned to question many things, including the sincerity of a smile and Mammy's chicken fried tofu. One thing I've never doubted is the existence of the imaginary. In fact, I've made my life around it. The doorbell chimes, signaling my next client has arrived. I take a seat on the beanbag chair because, even though it hurts my lower back by the end of our session, it makes me more approachable. "Hi, Maritza," I say as the door swings open and the little girl enters. "Good afternoon, Dr. Hazel." She walks past the beanbag chair opposite me, past the fuzzy sensory rug, and perches herself on the only adult-sized chair in the room, my desk chair. In the world of 4-year-olds, that's a power move if I've ever seen one. Maritza is a wily one. Beneath the perfectly smooth dress and the plaited hair, with not a strand out of place, lives a gremlin of a child, wild, nearly feral given anything with food dye, and with a deep yearning for mud. Her parents spent the last 4 years of her life gently coaxing their daughter into obedience. They coached her off the top of the refrigerator, where they hid all the good snacks, and into the clothing she so often tore from her body and left in her wake. With much care, they kept her out of the muddiest of puddles. They taught her to say please and thank you, to crave fruits paired with nut butters, and most of all, to think before she speaks. All that hard work led to their precious Maritza, who sits before me. Now my job is to undo it.
I especially love this piece. I think it might be my favorite of the 4.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
Which is, then. I guess, a little bit odd, because Doorbell is like fantasy or nothing.
Yeah.
But this doesn't seem like that yet. So, anyway, I absolutely love the opening. The imagery feels like the perfect show don't tell. Mm-hmm. It's a study in show don't tell. We're not told where we are. We're not told who the character is. We're given this description of the setting and then a client arriving, and that's our first clue of what we might be walking into. So, without ever saying anything explicit, we can guess that Dr. Hazel is some kind of psychologist or therapist, someone who likely works specifically with kids, but might see adults as well. And then this child comes in, absolute wild card, and I am hooked immediately. I want to read more. I think I had a couple wording suggestions, but they were really minor. I just really want to see how the author unpacks that last line of, now my job is to undo everything.
I love that.
Love.
I don't think that was my favorite part, actually, was the last line. Like, I feel like this is going to be a fun story, but yeah, I think it's going to be a fun story. I could be wrong. The last, like, the delivery of the last line was my favorite, and the listeners can't see it, hear it, whatever. Imaginary is capitalized, so I feel like we are set up to learn a lot more about it. It's set up to be, like, the big thing. And yeah, but what I really liked about this first page was there was no info dumping. Like, every sentence had a purpose. Everything pushed the story forward. There was no big, like, breaks. Like, there was no big pauses, I felt like, in it, which I like on a first page especially. And, I would definitely keep reading this, and I do want to read the whole thing because I am so curious. Like, I feel like it's setting us up for, like, the kids to be, like, they have superpowers or powers of some kind, magic of some kind, and she helps them control it or unleash it or something like that. And I think that could be super, super fun.
I find it so funny that you find this funny because I was messaging you and I was like, I am getting horror vibes from this. Like, I am expecting creepy children from this, especially after that first line. That in a town that values perfectly manicured lawns, picket fences, and polite nods. And I'm like, this sounds like, did you guys ever read A Wrinkle in Time? And they end up on that world where every kid bounces the ball at the exact same second, and every house looks exactly the same.
That's really creepy. I haven't read that.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I will admit I'm getting kind of a sinister, like, there's skeletons in these closets kind of thing, and you have this perfectly behaved 4-year-old who is I mean about to be unleashed in some way. Like, what are they doing to have to control this 4-year-old? I don't know. I'm obviously very intrigued. If it does end up being horror, I am sad to say I probably wouldn't read it because I'm a scaredy cat.
Same.
Especially for creepy children, no thank you. But yeah, I would agree. Like, there was some good kind of humor in this, like, enough that it was very intriguing and you kind of wanted to giggle about this chicken fried tofu.
Yes,
don't know what that means. But
I was like, that's definitely odd, which totally made me think, like, maybe this is going to be some interesting world building, because I was like, who has chicken, was it chicken fried tofu? I was like, yeah, chicken fried tofu. I thought that was, an interesting one when I first, and it's a funny, like, thing to put in the second sentence. First sentence. I like it because you're immediately like, what is going on? You know, it's a bit intriguing. It's not too weird, but it is weird. But yeah, no, I could see this being a horror, and then I wouldn't be able to read it, but I'd like to hear the synopsis. I want to know what happens, but I don't want to experience it because I'm a baby. So,
okay, because I like that would be interesting if it is setting up more of a sinister tone. Because my biggest issue is the age of the little girl right now. So, like, I have a 4-year-old and I know I've worked with 4-year-olds, and so this it's distracting to me, like the age, that kind of transformation that's being described, like, I just don't know that that's possible in reality for a who have undergone, they just haven't been alive long enough like, to experience transformation that's that extreme. So either setting up, some sort of more sinister horror kind of, situation, in which case, the age could maybe work. But if not, if it's going for more of a lighthearted, realistic kind of vibe, I would recommend aging up. So I feel like 4 is very young for that. But to end on a positive note, like, I really did like this. I thought that the voice was so clear. It was such a distinctive writing voice, and I agree that it was efficient. That's something that I just love. When I pick up a book, if the writing is really efficient, if they are like telling me so much with a single sentence, I'm like, oh yes, that's the good stuff, So I really did like this. that's kind of, I take issue with how young the girl is. I feel like it needs to be justified.
Yeah, okay, so here's kind of what I'm thinking now that I've listened to your guys' feedback and we've been talking about it, is maybe the first page isn't clear enough of what genre we're getting into. Because if it's a horror, then the 4-year-old works because there's already something not right there. But if it's going to be like kind of a comedy or fantasy or like a magical realism or something, then maybe age it up and kind of continue with its going. And if it's going to be a horror, then add some more horror elements in the first page so you kind of know what you're getting into. But I feel like it's a good start. Like Daphne caught on to it, so I think if this is going to be a horror piece, it wouldn't be that hard to like increase its like scariness on the first page, like the foreboding, I guess, and then it would be more clear, because one of the things I like in a first page and like really in a first chapter, I guess, is like that I'm getting what the author promised me when I picked it up. So like, did I want a magical realism with like cute little kids and like magical creatures? Like, then I hope that is what I'm getting within like the first, like that's what I want to be getting into. Because that happened to me somewhat recently with a book where I just felt like the author promised me a historical romance and I got this like
not
Bridgerton inspired, loosely historical, really modern dialogue sort of book. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't what you promised me. I feel betrayed now by this author, and now I only want to read their older stuff because I know that they delivered in those ones. So I think that that's something too that maybe this page just needs like a little, because otherwise we all love it and I love the writing, so I think that might be the main thing for this one. So,
and to remember too that like we only see this first page, we don't see the cover. If the cover was like a creepy child from The Ring, then we'd know it's horror when we pick it up, and then we'd maybe lean into that creepy vibe quicker.
Yeah, it's hard because we do go into these 100% cold, like no back cover copy, no query, no cover, nothing. So it is, to us, it's like we want to be able to kind of pick out what genre it's going to be. Yeah. Or like where they're going with it. But yeah, I do love that one.
What does it take to get another drink around here? Satara used the fingers on her right hand to massage her temple. The painful pulses of her headache were almost in sync with the droning dance music playing that night. It was not a particularly crowded night, but there were enough patrons willing to keep the bartenders busy. Any attempts to get their attention was muted by the music, as well as the cacophonic cheers of inebriated dancers who were looking to keep the party going until dawn. Satara knew downing another cocktail would not cure her headache, but perhaps a more fruity drink would at least disguise her fetid breath. Her eyelids were becoming increasingly heavy, despite the overstimulating environment. The grimy bar table, littered with empty glasses and dirty plates, began to feel like the perfect resting spot for her arms and head as she lurched forward. "Hey, you know the rules. Our club is not a hotel, especially during curfew." I guess that's one way to get their attention. Satara raised her head as she made eye contact with a bartender standing in front of her. The lanky figure had 2 arms focused on making drinks, and the other 2 on grabbing the dirty dishes scattered across the bar. "Sorry. Can you make me the abyssal rum punch?" she asked, taking out a single sapphire chip from her pocket. She passed them to the bartender, who used one hand to grab them while making Satara's drink with the 2 others. Like clockwork, the bartender handed her a tall glass full of teal blue cocktail and 3 smaller ruby chips. Satara passed the chips back to the bartender, who pocketed them as a tip. Perhaps her generous tips were the reason they were giving her warnings, instead of immediately throwing her out for an infraction. If they don't arrive soon with the goods, I'll be on a first-name basis with these bartenders.
We're looking at a sci-fi-ish, we assume. Again, no cover. I actually, as soon as Elise said that, I was like, oh yeah, that's really what I'm kind of missing with this, is because I have no cover, I am so blind going into it. It almost makes me feel like fanfic days again.
Yeah, that's a bit what it feels like. That's probably why I like it so much.
I had tags back then.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't know, what am I gonna get? So I really loved how this one is just casually dropped as being a sci-fi world. We don't really have any kind of build up to that. We know we're in some kind of like club, and all of a sudden we find out the bartender has like 4 arms. And that was just, again, just such a cool kind of drop moment. I did want a little bit more energy from the book, our first page, just because it was for being in a club and for again having the sci-fi world. We know there's a curfew going on. We know she's like surrounded by, like throbbing music and all of these things, and it was just a little quiet to me, almost a little bit of a contrast. And I mean, it says like, she has a headache and all of these things, and she's kind of falling asleep. But we get this big drop for the last line of kind of that we're waiting for somebody. And I wanted it amped a little bit more. So yeah, I didn't have too many notes. It was mainly, I just wanted like a little bit more going on. I want a little bit of anticipation for this first page.
Yeah, sure. The forearm, the introduction of the four-armed alien, I was just like, that blew my mind. So good. And I would like keep reading like that. And so yeah, I really feel like there's a lot that's fun here, and it just needs to be like streamlined. Like there's just a lot that doesn't necessarily need to be there. Like I put the painful pulses of her headache, that sentence, I think that's that opening line, in my opinion. Like you take out, the first two, and then, we get a little bit bogged down with the interaction between the bartender. I feel like that could be a little bit more snappy, and let's get to, we're not to that last line a little bit quicker, so that we know what's going on in this. So yeah, I think there's a lot of fun here.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of fun stuff starting to happen or potentially going to happen, and I love a good sci-fi adventure. Like it's one of my favorite things is a sci-fi adventure. So a lot of my thoughts were mostly towards like some rephrasing and reworking some sentences to get the most out of the first page. Because I think the writer here needs to be really ruthless with what they keep and what they don't keep. And there's a few things that were more distracting rather than drawing them in. Like, I loved the forearm bartender. Like, you have to have that. But, like, you guys were saying, like, a more punchy or a shorter scene with the bartender, because it just sort of drew me in like I was like, okay, I kept kind of waiting for something to happen. And yeah, I like at the end of the first page, so talking about how they're waiting for someone to come bring the goods or whatever, and I think that should be further up. I really like the idea of starting with the painful pulses of her headache. We're almost in sync. I think that is a good starting place, and then that can go right into waiting for somebody, and then the bartender interaction, and then maybe she's looking to see if someone's coming, and like that would probably make the pacing of this first page a bit better. It feels like we're just starting, maybe getting too much introductory stuff, and this happens a lot. I talked about this on the show before, where we go through school like our whole lives, we write essays and we have to write an introduction, and a lot of people have a hard time not doing that when they write their first page. They end up writing like an introduction, and then the story doesn't really get started till a bit later, and that's a little what's happening here. I think it could definitely be edited to be really punchy though, because like I'm loving the vibes of this, and we all know I love vibes, so that's that for me.
It is all about the vibes.
It is.
That is essentially what drew me into. I was like, once we got to the four-armed bartender, I was like, oh, Star Wars Cantina. Okay, yes, I'm in. I don't need to know anything else.
Yeah,
I want more. I agreed about like that section being more drawn out than it needed to be, and it could be tightened up for sure. I really like that last line drop of information that like, oh, there is something more going on here. We're waiting for a drop of something. And I think moving that up would probably be a good decision. But overall, just love the vibes. I'm very curious around what kinds of other species we might be dealing with here. Yeah. How many arms does everyone else have? And I'd love to know about the main character in particular. Are they human? 3 feet? I don't know. there's enough intrigue to keep me reading for sure. And the scene is set really nicely. And it sounds like some kind of like regulated society with the curfew, which is interesting. Yeah, I expect that to come up in a few chapters or in the next page or something like that. It's probably with a challenge for the character to overcome. It's kind of like the principle of Chekhov's gun. If you have a gun on the page in this first scene, the gun must go off by the end of the book. That kind of idea. Yeah. If anything was missing for me, I'd say it was, again, an emotional indicator from the main character about whether they're anxious about this meeting or more chill and just frustrated because, like, they're not having a great day. Their headache probably sucks a lot. They sound exhausted. But are they also scared? Are they also worried about the meeting? Or are they like, I just want to get this over so I can go home and get rid of my headache? Exactly. Like, this is an everyday occurrence for me. Yeah. That's the thing I want to know. Because if they're nervous, that raises the stakes a bit. That makes it a little bit more intense, which isn't always nice. If they're not, that tells me something about them and the kind of meeting they're headed into. And then if the meeting blows up, how will they react? From like not being nervous to now, okay, what are they going to do? That's also very interesting. So yeah, I thought it was a great start to the piece. And again, I definitely keep reading. So 3 for 3. Yeah, and I think this suggestion came to me while we were talking about this because on a first page, I think it's hard sometimes to get the emotional beat you need from your character when you're first starting the story because you don't know them well enough yet. So one of my big pieces of advice is to come back and rewrite your beginning after you finish your whole draft so you know the character inside and out by then, and you can bring their emotions up in like a way that feels natural for you, the writer, because you did it throughout the whole rest of the draft, and then that makes the first page a lot better. I think that's the hardest part to nail, I would say, for first pages, possibly, is the emotional part. It's always a tough one.
Drethwin was ready to die, just to slip away from it all. But the song wouldn't let her. She had held to her course for 2 days, northwards and ever on, out of the frozen heights, wandering through mud and rocks and brambles, down sharp descents and across icy streams, long after the fire in her blood had died and her mind had fallen into bleak despair. Now, as the setting sun behind her began to cast the ravines into an eerie darkness, she finally threw herself to her knees. She stared out across the great valley beyond and thought about all those she had lost, all those she had failed over the past 2 months. Her thoughts were a storm of faces and voices, a tempest of futures that would never be lived. Iverin, who asked whether Drethwin would help braid her hair for the dances that she would never dance. Elion, whose top lip had begun to grow the finest dark fuzz. Drethwin has resolved to teach her brother how to shave before their father returned. Instead, she had buried his lifeless lips in the frozen earth of the Badlands. A simple cairn of stones marked the ridge from which her brother overlooked the slopes that she now walked. In the end, she hadn't even been able to weep for him. At last, her skin grew chill in the wind across the vale, and she noticed that the sky had faded from an amber afterglow to a blue-teal dusk. Lights were blinking into existence above her, the pale turquoise stars of Morrigan's night casting the hillsides in a ghostly glow. And there was life down there. She could see it now. Sanctuary. Not more than a day's walk to the north, smoke was rising, blushing faintly green in the starlight. But she knew that she would never reach the place before the cats caught up with her. She could hear them now, descending the slope just above her. They could see her in the dark. They would hear her if she moved. They would smell her soon.
Okay, so I was an alpha reader for this book, so I have actually read this entire book, and I can tell you that he has made some adjustments to this first page from what I originally did, and I like a lot of the adjustments, it's very so gut-wrenching. This first page is such a gut-wrenching emotional opening, and I'm hooked by this, by the ending with the cats, it's capitalized, and like that tells you so much right there. I loved the vibe of the what was it? It was Morgan's night, the ghostly glow and this teal dove. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. I don't have a lot of like critical feedback, honestly. Like I think it's a really strong first page.
Wait, you already did your critical feedback for this one, so you're kind of off the hook. I love it.
All right, I guess that goes to me then. So as much as like with the last ones, we were like, yes, we want like, you know, a little bit punch and stuff. This one works so well because of just the style of it. Like the style of writing is completely different. It's beautiful and heart-wrenching, and it's one of those more, again, descriptive languages where it just, I don't know, like you feel the character's emotions. Like Lisa's talking, like we want to feel these emotions. We know this character has gone through something, and we know they're torn up about it. And I just thought that was so interesting, and that it did make me want to keep reading, even though it's such a different style from what I'll typically pick up recently. There was a few things that I really wanted to uncover. If you can't tell, I am definitely also more of a vibes kind of reader. I will judge a little bit more on the first chapter rather than the first page, I find. So having like a song like this, it's the song. It's not a song, it's the song. Introduced in the second sentence, and I just want to know more. I want to know more about that. I want to know more about the cats. It's kind of giving like a Dune vibe, like this intrepid traveler who's, you know, going to, I don't know, have a revenge plot or is about to like fall over and just give up. And I hope they don't.
They better not. I want to read this whole thing.
They better not. It'd be a very short book. And yeah, I love this whole idea, like ghostly glow. I love alliteration. So that immediately like checked a box for me. And Morgan's Night, I'm really curious, is this a sci-fi world? Is it our world and things have happened? Yeah, I mainly just want to know more. I think it was beautiful.
That's my favorite kind of first page where you're like, I just want more. I don't really have a lot of comments, but I want more.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing.
More.
That's exactly it. Yeah, so I also love this. Like usually I don't love these monologue type first pages. They're usually like, I don't know. I usually just am like, wow, this doesn't sound super interesting, but I loved this. It works perfectly. It has like heartbreak and longing. So we're like invested in what she's doing now, what she's done, what she's been through since wherever she's coming from. The tension upper at the end with the predators after her, also like big cats. Like I know that this would get me killed, but I'd be like, big cat, I want to pet you. But I already know, we've already established I wouldn't survive outside of the regular world. So anyway, I'm getting sort of like last one of her line needs to avenge her loved ones vibes, and I would really love that because I love a revenge story. Count of Monte Cristo changed me as a person. I want more revenge stories, so that would be really awesome if this was one of those. And I thought the descriptions were great. Like the whole vibe matches, like the word choices match, like the longing and the heartbreak and the stuff that she's kind of going through, and the adventure, and she's tired and she's walking, and like the song and all that kind of stuff. Like it all seems to really work well together, and I can really like picture it, which is how I know I really like the writing. Is if it's starting to look like a movie in my head, then I know the writing is really good. So I really just want to read more of this. I had a couple wording suggestions, but that's pretty much it. I was easy to please on this one.
I think it's just a really solid first page. Yes. So yeah, it's stunning and heartbreaking in equal measure, and in the best way possible. Like that's a compliment. I especially love the just desperate grieving picture that they're painting here, and would be very keen to keep reading as well if I had picked it up off the shelf. I have immediate empathy for the main character, which I think, if I'm not misremembering, of the 4 pieces we've done today, this is the one where the emotion of the character has actually like significantly captured me.
Yeah.
The others didn't have that piece. Not to say that that's strictly necessary, but that's what gives this piece so much power. We immediately know what kind of losses she suffered. It's just like, okay, yeah, just rip my heart out of my chest immediately. Why don't you? Fine. Yeah. And then she's not done suffering yet. So the stakes are super high, which makes me just want to keep reading through. So that's beautiful. One thing I noticed was that I completely forgot about the song piece until I saw Daphne's comments on this.
Same.
So either that's my attention span, which, you know, totally valid, or that if that's going to be a more important piece, it could be mentioned again on the page somewhere. Either when maybe it's echoing in her head when she's looking at the stars. I don't know. I don't know what the significance of it is, so I can't give a really strong recommendation, but I did forget about it as soon as I moved on to the next paragraph. But yeah, regardless of that, so engrossing, so beautiful, and I would love to read more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like your suggestion of like echoing that, like the song in her head or something, like near the end, so we remember, and then hopefully pretty quickly we learn about this song so that it doesn't remain like whatever happened to that plot thread. Megan's smiling awake. She's read the whole thing. She's like, suckers, you just have to wait. Look at her laughing. That's not very fair.
I was gonna say, did we get like an inside or like, I don't know, any information? Are you gonna share with us what happened? Well, a little bit more, come on, just like a little
right
bit more.
So yeah, what I'll say is that I do think it's a good suggestion to bring up the song again very soon. You know, when it's on the first page, because it is a very important part of this story.
Okay,
I thought so.
I believe I think he even references it in the title of the book. So like,
okay,
it's like, it's very important. So I think that is good feedback to just reiterate, make sure that it's forefront. Yeah.
Yes. And if it's in the title too, that will help as well. Like we said, we don't have a cover.
Yep.
And like, I don't know about you guys, if I read a first chapter of something and I'm still feeling a bit like, where and what is happening, I read the back cover again and then I'm like, oh yeah, right. This is where we're headed with this. Because again, you know, the forgetfulness. I think, everyone knows that about me by now. Sorry. It's part of who I am. But it's a pain in the butt. But no, for stories like, well, all the stories that I get, all the first pages, I kind of wish we made the authors, like, there should be like a little like disclaimer, like when you're done your draft, you have to send it to us so we can read and find out what happens. Because it's really hard sometimes to read these first pages. Like there's still stories I think about. I'm like, I wonder what happened with that story. And I did get to alpha read for somebody once after they sent their page into the podcast, so I was able to find out what happened, and I was happy about that. I was like, can't do that with everybody. I don't have enough time. But yeah, I really love that last one. I'm craving some good fantasy as we get into autumn. You know, 'tis the season of fantasy, leaving the summer rom-coms behind. And apparently it's, you know, summer is ending early out here. So yeah, I'm getting into the vibes for like fantasy books. Thank you for coming on our show. It was super good. It was fun to do first pages. So much. Yeah, it was so good to do it with like other readers, writers who like, you know, you guys know what to look for. It was fun. Yeah, it was good times.
I'm going to be thinking so much more critically about all of the first pages I read, because like,
I know, sorry.
Me, it's like kind of first chapter. That's usually what I'll judge on.
Yes.
But like first page, I was like, oh dang.
It's harder. It's way harder.
Yeah.
First chapter, when I'm reading for myself, first chapter is like where I decide. Unless I read the first page in the bookstore and I flip to the second page and then I start realizing that I'm not going to stop unless I just go buy it, then that's okay. So, but yeah, when we started doing first pages, we're like, this is harder than we anticipated. Like if we'd said first chapter, it would have been fine, but you can't read first chapter.
Yeah, it's just too much content.
It's just too much. Yeah.
It's
a lot. So first pages, but yeah, it does make you suddenly, like since we started the show, actually, and especially in the last like 2 years, my reading has been like whoop, because I'm way harder on the stuff I pick up. Like yeah. I either have to be swept away or I have to be sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you find it changes more with genre too? Because there is things like a 5-star romance read for me is so different from a 5-star fantasy
Yeah,
read.
absolutely. They're totally different rating scales to me.
Yeah.
Like,
so like
yeah.
first page for a romance book would be so different than like a first page for a fantasy book.
Yeah, I think you do have to, like, when there's no world building, I feel like the character thing is like even more important. It usually works in like for romance because like you're really in that character's head. So like I find like the first pages of romance are usually pretty like good. But yeah, it's a lot of time the first pages of fantasy that I have trouble with. Like I just finished the Tainted Cup the other day, and I was like, have you guys read it before I say anything about it? Okay, good. I was really excited about it. It sounds really interesting. And like writing, like objectively, it's a really good book. Like it should have been a 5-star book, but it's written in first person, which is fine, except you never get any backstory on the main character. Like, I mean, zero. Weird. Like he sends money home to his family. We never find out about the family. Does he have siblings? Is it a mom and dad? Did he come from a broken home? We literally hear nothing about it. And I'm like, how can you write from first person and skip that part? Like,
okay, meanwhile, so like I submitted a first page to you guys. I have been started a complete rewrite.
You can resubmit if you want. I haven't used it. We haven't used it yet.
I decided to completely rewrite it in first person, and I've been worrying that I'm doing too much backstory, that I'm telling you too much about these people, and people are going to be bored. They're going to be like, get on with it. I don't care.
See, that's okay, because if you write all the backstory and you get the feedback that people are like, it's too much, then you can just take it out and add it in throughout, like in more subtle ways. Like that was Elisa's advice to me with backstories, like slide it in a little bit. But it's worse if you have no backstory than if you have too much, I feel like. Because I finished that book and I never felt connected to the character at all.
Exactly. If you don't have the backstory in the first place, the character feels like a cardboard cutout.
That was what it felt like. I felt like we were literally watching, like, the character was just there so I could see what happened with the story. And he had a couple things that he did. But in a book that big, like, the main character should be doing most of the things, not watching other people do the things. And everyone raves about that author, and it's only had, like, 5-star reviews on, like, Bookstagram, and I'm like, oh, no.
It's such a weird, like, uncanny feeling when you read a book and you're just like, what the hell was up with that? You know, and then next thing you know, our future is like glowing, and you're like, what did I read?
Yes. Okay, that's what I'm like. What did I read? And it was sort of like when everyone was like, you really liked Fourth Wing, right, Daph? Like you liked it.
I did. Right? I really liked book 1.
Okay. Oh yeah. I don't think people like to talk about book 2 anymore. But I remember everyone raving about it, and then I started reading it, and I was like, I feel like I'm reading a different book. And I was like, this has to be, like, me, because everybody loved it. And I was reading it, and I'm going, I can't read this. I think I got to, like, chapter 4. And it was just one of those weird things. It's like, oh, maybe I should try going back to it. But, yeah, it was just, I didn't connect, and then I just couldn't read it. So.
That one, for me, I think it might also be, because I know I'm a few years younger than you.
Yeah, I'm an old lady now.
I was going to say, I was like 15 or 16 when Divergent was coming out. I was like, 13 or 14 when Hunger Games was coming out. Like those were like my teenage books. And Fourth Wing, you can really tell, is written for the people who were that age and kind of had those very formative books. And then, they've just made it smutty and added some dragons.
Okay, that makes sense because, I feel like I'm a different generation for that reason.
But, like, it's not even, like, you're a different generation. I think it kind of just depends on where you fall. It's same with, like, the Harry Potter craze. Like, depending on where you fell on the age scale for, like, when the books were coming out, you had a completely different experience with them.
I was a straight-up nerd because I was, like, 11 when the first book came out. It was, like, perfect timing.
Yeah.
So I think that's why.
I was about 6 when my mom read me the first book.
Wow, then. But yeah, no, I think that makes That makes sense. I think that those of us who had a Harry Potter phase tend to gravitate towards the same fantasy books. I want to say.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of us do like them, but like Throne of Glass and ACOTAR especially seem to be the ones that everybody So I was like, my best friend loved Harry Potter, and then she didn't read fantasy for like years. And then one day I was like, why don't you just try this one? And I gave her ACOTAR, and now she's like, we're supposed to buddy read Kingdom of Ash together. She's caught up to me, and I gave her that like a year ago. I was like, still haven't read Kingdom of Ash, so when you get to it, we can read it together. But yeah, I feel like that's a gateway drug series anyways, aside from Harry Potter.
It definitely was.
Yeah, gateway drug.
But again, like I started reading Sarah J. Maas in 2014. So it was really, really interesting to see all the people like catch up with it.
Yeah.
Because it was so many years later. And people are still just finding it for the first time. And
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
no, I've been reading this for a decade.
Yeah, like I've moved on. I read different books now.
Yeah.
I know I gave her A River Enchanted to read. Because I was like, once you start this kind of fantasy, you'll be happy. Yeah.
That's just such another one with such atmospheric writing.
Mm-hmm.
Just that her, Laini Taylor, she also does it. V.E. Schwab. That beautiful.
Who else? Oh, Elise is gonna listen to on audio Spells for Forgetting. Very
Adrian
atmospheric
Young.
with Adrian Young.
Adrian Young.
Yes, I love that one.
Yes.
I forget what else. Because Maggie's snoring so loud in my ears. Thank you for that. And that's the tea on First Pages. Thank you to Daphne and Meghan for joining us today and sharing their knowledge with us. Don't forget to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want more of the Tea Grannies, head over to our Patreon. Happy writing.